Hello and welcome to Quarterlight, your car brochure channel, and in today's episode, the little Honda N600. Hello and welcome back to Quarterlight. Now if you're new to Quarterlight, we're a car brochure channel here on YouTube, looking at car brochures from around the world for the 60s, 70s, 80s and 90s and sometimes beyond that as well. So if you're interested in cars, car brochures, looking back on cars gone by, then please do consider subscribing. It is all completely free. Now this particular episode was first aired on a Tuesday. Tuesday episodes, we tend to look at tons of brochures we've looked at before, but right at the beginning of Quarterlight, so we do things a little bit different, let's say, and we concentrate more on the brochure. If you look at the original videos, it's more facts about the cars, and I know some people like that, but those videos are still out there, and I'll put a link to the original brochure review for this brochure. But let's throw this little Honda N600 on the board and learn a bit more about it. So here is today's brochure. What a nice little tiny car these are, and what a nice little brochure this is. Very early brochuring, so when we look at this brochure, we'll notice the condition is pretty much as it would have been picked up at the dealership in the time, which is also very, very nice. At the bottom here, quite simply says Honda N600, and if we zoom in, new from Honda it says. Another reminder that this is a very early brochure. Quite a cute little car, unusual lights on them as well, aren't they, and this nice chrome bumper showing you it is quite an early car. Let's just turn to the back of the brochure, remind ourselves what date this brochure is, and there it says Honda Motor Cars Limited, Tokyo, Japan, printed in Japan, 1967. So it is certainly going a long way. Yeah, we got a little bit of distortion, a few creases right at that bottom corner, but like I say, pretty much as it would have come from the showroom, apart from that little tiny crease. So it is in exceptional condition, this particular brochure. Let's just turn to the front page again, and when we do, I'll zoom straight in as I have done here. So one of the differences is with these newer episodes of Quarterlight, we can zoom right into the car, have a closer look at it, which is always really nice to do. We can even see that little Honda badge there with the 600 below it. Nice little touches there. But like I said, there was more sort of facts, I guess, on the earlier brochure review, so I will do a link to the original brochure at the end. But why don't we turn the page and have a look inside this brochure, and then we open the brochure itself. Again, I know this is a bit brochure geekery really, but the corners on this brochure are incredible to say they're from the 60s. The paper isn't, well, it's a little bit thicker than normal paper actually, I guess, which is maybe why it's held up. But apart from this little area down here, which we had a look at on the back, it's pretty much pristine, which always surprises me. Anyway, at the top here it says, a family car suitable for many uses. And on the opposite page it talks about compact, complete and compelling. Lovely. Let's just zoom in on the main image. It's quite attractive in some ways, the little car, and it's kind of like, it's attractive but awkward in some ways as well, I kind of like think when I look at these. Nice to see a nice little Quarterlight on there, of course, and all these nice chrome touches. Just a reminder, this is from the 60s. I always kind of like think maybe this was Japan's answer to like a Mini, for example. And these unusual wheel trims which look very Japanesey. And then the back end, we'll look at the back later on. The back looks quite awkward actually in some ways, but a very interesting car. I would imagine in the 60s they wouldn't have sold too many in the UK. I'm sure more people, well, definitely more people would just bought a Mini really in the 60s. Foreign cars were still a little bit, I wouldn't say frowned upon, just a little bit cautious, I guess the buyers were in the 60s to buy a car not in the UK. This brochure incidentally is aimed at the UK buyer, as in this it would be a UK brochure, making it quite rare in some ways. The text down at the bottom here tells us this is the most versatile small automobile. One that any family will find useful for many purposes. The Honda N600, completely original from bumper to bumper, has several unique mechanical features which make it easy to drive and simple to service. Although featuring compact outer dimensions, this car has a spacious interior which is quite comfortable for 4 adults, even during long drives. Reliability and a long life of dependable service are attributes of all Honda products. Drive the N600 once and you'll agree you've got to hand it to Honda. Of course, Honda, trying to get a little bit of a foothold in the UK market at this time, is slowly crept in there. Really, reliability, of course, is one of the ways they actually started getting more and more sales, word of mouth, etc. So, first of all, under the word compact, we've got a little bit of a peep, I guess, if we can zoom in a little bit further, of this little tiny 600cc OHC engine. We can also see on there as well, they've managed to squeeze the spur wheel in there as well. It tells us the 600cc OHC engine and 4-speed constant mesh transmission have needle roller bearings for smooth power, a flat torque reading at all speeds, and assurance of longer life. The blower air-cooled aluminium alloy engine is front-mounted and coupled to a front-wheel drive, incorporating rack and pinion steering. It goes on to tell us other mechanical features include direct change shaft to a gearbox built around a vibration damping torsion bar, automatically tensioned cam chain for the short stroke 2-cylinder engine, variable Venturi carburetor, exclusive universal ball joint. And then under the word complete, we've got some nice little images of the interior. Let's see if we can zoom in a bit further on the dash. A sea of black, really. Simple, very simple controls for the speedometer. A little Honda badge on the centre of that. A little steering wheel and an unusual angled gear lever there by the looks of it. Simplicity overall though, and if we move the camera down, we get a glimpse of the front seats and I guess the rear seats as well. Again, a sea of black, so not very inspiring on the interior there. I know that that's probably vinyl seating as well, I would imagine. It tells us design began with the spacious interior and monocoque body, featuring a flat floor and large boot. The illuminated white on black dashboard makes instruments easy to read at a glance without straining your eyes, and include knee protection, safety padding, as does the steering wheel, sun visor and back of front seats. And then at the bottom in the small print it tells us the back of the rear seat folds down so lengthy items can be loaded in the boot. The driver's seat slides back and forth a full 5.5 inches. Wide doors make getting in and out simple. Large glove compartment and side pockets in the rear. And then under the word compelling, we have a look at that rear end. Certainly a very unusual rear end, a little bit awkward in some ways. Unusual opening for that little boot, like lifting upwards. You kind of think lifting downwards would possibly make more sense in this case. Very simple lights. Yeah, it's got the number plate quite simply says Honda on it, but if you look above, we can see Honda on that little area, which presumably had a light for the number plates within it. I think overall these are extremely interesting cars, and I would certainly like to drive one, I must admit. I think they're wonderful, but I don't think overall the packaging is quite as good as the Mini, of course. Now moving down, we also have a little glimpse of that door handle, and looks like the fuel flap there right next to the door, which is an unusual spot. The text telling us with Honda, safety isn't only good brakes and bright lamps. It's also safety catch, door latches and recessed handles and locked upright seat backs. It's a unique ventilation system not common even on large cars, wide curved windscreen and many other features. The Honda N600 places strong emphasis on family safety. The text telling us soft suspension, guaranteed riding comfort, safe tail lamps visible from sides, separate reversing lamps and reflectors, internal expanding four-wheel hydraulic brakes, under floorboard petrol tank, seat belt anchors, defroster, windscreen washer. Which really overall tells us that actually for the age, remember 67, there's quite a lot of features for what is very much an economy car in the 60s. So I guess Honda, as well as giving us that it's going to be more reliable than your cars in Britain, it's also telling us it's probably got more features as well. Back page is specifications. I think we'll start with these two little images, come down the technical specification, sorry for knocking everything there, and then we'll move on to this sort of acceleration and engine performance curve that it's showing us as well. So here is your side shot, and you can see what it's telling you about these lights, which are also visible from the side. They look a little bit ungainly, but I can see what they're kind of like going for. Overall, very interesting looking little car, isn't it? It's just from the back it looks a little bit awkward, doesn't it, in those real tail lights, but nevertheless an interesting car. It looks like we've got, well, hard to say, I was about to say it looks like we've got cart springs on the back there, but I'm not 100% sure about that. But anyway, let's have a look at some of the technical specifications. So it tells us maximum speed over 80 miles per hour, which, to be honest with you, this little 600cc engine is actually quite impressive for the 60s, I thought. Acceleration, quarter mile sprint, 19.7 seconds. Fuel consumption, 50 mile per gallon for normal city driving. Climbing ability, 20 degrees, that's an unusual thing to throw on there. The engine, 4-stroke, forced air-cooled overhead camshaft, OHC, parallel twin cylinder. Tells about the bore and stroke, cylinder capacities, which is 598.7 cc's. Also tells us the compression ratio, maximum horsepower, 45 bhp at 7,000 rpm. What a high spinny little engine, and the maximum torque there, 40 foot-pounds at 5,000 rpm. So the ignition is 12 volts, carburetor is variable Venturi, transmission direct change, 4-speed forward, 1 reverse, drive front wheel drive, steering and ratio, so it's nice to see rack and pinion steering, and then it gives you some of the dimensions for this tiny little car. At the bottom, just quite simply telling us specifications are subject to change without notice. Then we've got some very unusual charts, so acceleration and vehicle charts on this first one, and these funny little lines going up here is it's like low gear, second gear, third gear, fourth gear. It's very unusual that they've actually put this on here. So this is your vehicle speed, so going all the way up to 80 there in top gear. And then what does this say at the side? What gauge are we going across there? Traction power in kilograms. An unusual chart. And then the second chart is showing engine performance curve. So it's a very unusual chart. I'm kind of like just looking at it, trying to work it out. So we've got going up here, we've got the brake horsepower and against torque and fuel consumption. An unusual graph, I think, to put in a brochure overall. But if we move the camera down there, again, we get to this little Honda address there in 1967. So there we go, quite an unusual little brochure from Honda there for the N600. Do you remember these? Have you seen one before? Most likely going to see one of these in a museum, I would imagine, or someone's collection, but a very unusual car. I don't think it was quite good enough to compete with a Mini, but nevertheless, the start of Honda getting a foothold in the UK and the European markets, I guess. But thank you so much for watching today. We'll end, as we always do, by saying, if you've not done already, please do consider subscribing. I'm going to add a couple more boxes here, one with maybe for other Honda models. Not sure what the other box will be. All the other box will be for the original brochure of this, so if you wanted to, you can look at that. I think there's possibly more details in there, but less looking at the actual brochure. You can certainly see how we've changed how we do the brochure reviews now. But thank you so much for watching today. Please do join us again soon. Please do take care, of course, and we'll see you very soon. Goodbye.